G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to War Thunder. Today we're going to be having a look at the F-11 Tiger. The F-11 Tiger is a brand new vehicle to War Thunder and comes as part of Operation Summer's reward vehicles. It's a rank 6, and it is battle rating 9.0, and it can, in theory, do supersonic speeds. Now, I say in theory, we'll get to that in a moment. But today we're going to be having a look at why you might want to grind it, or alternatively, why you might want to stay away from it. The F-11 Tiger, overall, I'll give you the long and short of it. It is a tough aircraft to play, and it is not forgiving at all. It requires a good team, which comes very, very scarcely, and I would highly recommend playing this thing in a squad. So, there we've got it. If that's all you wanted, you can leave. But if you'd like to see some in-depth gameplay, well, we're going to bring that one up next. But we'll bring it in with a little bit more detail. So, the F-11, is it actually a good plane? Well, I'm very hesitant to say so, actually. I don't really think it's anything amazing. I think it's not well balanced either, and I'll get to that in a bit. But the F-11 Tiger is basically all speed. It's speed, and nothing else but speed. Think of the Hunter, but a little bit fatter. It doesn't really have that sort of nimbleness about it, where you can actually tussle with a few things, or at least where you can get your guns on target. This plane locks up very, very easily. And you'll see that when I go into a dive here, that I'll actually sort of struggle to pull out if I'm not careful. Now, on a side note, I want you to have a look at where that missile was fired and what it ends up hitting. I don't know how it happened, but I'm fucking sorry, man. I don't know. I guess the forces of War Thunder were just not with me tonight, and I did spend a lot of this evening going through footage, or trying to get footage for this plane, and it was really tough. Doing it solo, I struggled. I could barely get a couple of kills, and if I did, my team would end up dying. I was also focused a lot naturally because this plane is brand new, and people are like, "Oh, new plane, let's get it." Not realizing that, hey, you might actually want to, let this person get some kills so they can talk about the plane, but that's okay. Sadly enough, I was also focused by some content creators with other F-11 Tigers, which I don't know, I kind of expected better of them, but it's not the ones you're thinking of. Trust me, not the ones you're thinking of. But regardless, I decided to squad up with Oddbores. Now, Oddbores is a streamer. Chances are he'll comment on the video, and I'll pin it. But if he doesn't, then I'll put his link to his Twitch and to his YouTube in the description below. Oddbores is a fantastic bloke. He's a lot of fun to fly with, and he's a great bloke all around. And he does some really nice War Thunder content, both on Twitch and on YouTube. So definitely go and give him a follow. It is definitely worth it. Now, basically, the way we played the F-11 was just going quick and grabbing enemies that were slow. It's kind of like the Hunter, where you have to do something similar, but you're not afforded the liberty of at least being able to pull onto your opponents like the Hunter can. The F-11 trades a little bit more of that for a lot more speed. I think it can do 1200 on the deck, which honestly I rarely come to anyway, because who needs to do 1200 on the deck at this battle rating anyway? And on top of that, the Lightning F6 and the F100 will basically do that speed anyway. So you are faster, you have got an afterburner. So this plane overall is actually quite well performing for a 9.0. In fact, too well performing in terms of its raw speed and energy. You're starting to see a pattern here, kind of like the Lightning. However, getting kills in this thing is actually quite difficult. It's not an easy plane to just go in, grab an ace, and whoop-de-doo, you've got yourself a nice, easy, fun game. This plane makes you work for every single kill. And to me, that's quite frustrating, because I'd like a plane that I can work with and won't have to fight against. Something like, I suppose, the MiG-17, something like the G91R3, even the MiG-15 BIS or the F2 Sabre can sort of do stuff around that area. The J32 Lanson is even another example where you can just sort of do stuff in it, but the Tiger is a little bit more restrictive. And whilst it would probably be balanced statistic-wise at 9.0, its performance kind of makes it a good candidate for a 9.3 or a 9.7. Now, obviously, I would suggest a buff to this, and I would suggest that if it could carry AIM-9Es in real life, it does so in-game. That would make it a bit more of a missile platform rather than a gun plane, if you will. And that would give it a little bit more leniency when it comes to just flying around. It would make it a little bit more of an easier plane to go and get kills with, but wouldn't actually make the plane any sort of better overall, since it would go to 9.7 or 9.3. Anyway, moving on to another match we have here. Again, with Oddbors, I can't thank him enough. He's basically saved my life with this particular plane. So I'm going to be climbing. I'm going to put myself into a little bit of a climb just to try and get away from those people that might potentially want to focus. But at the same time, this gives me a little bit of room to play around with. Now, in theory, you can just sort of hug the bottom of the map and mow the lawn a little bit because you are fast enough. But if you get a certain amount of people on your ass, it's just not fun. And so I'd rather be that person that sort of dives in a little bit, using a little bit more of that afterburner. Remember that the afterburner does give you a little bit more power at altitude over someone without an afterburner. And we can see that the enemies are starting to sort of roll in. We have a javelin there that we're going to politely ignore. Tip your fedora to the javelin. And at the same time, we're looking at opponents above us, because above us is where the biggest threats are going to come from. Now, the 163, whilst being very slow, can be an extreme threat in the right situations, and they tend to pop out of nowhere. So I want to deal with that, especially considering he's AFK, and just sort of go up there, spray a little bit. I wasn't expecting to hit these, not going to lie, and I managed to do it perfectly. So, ME-163 is out, and it's time to look for enemies that might be a little bit fixated on someone else. So I'm going to go and put myself into a dive and try and save these Vautours here. Spoiler alert, it's probably not going to go well. But that's okay, because I've let my squad mate, Oddbors, know, and that he'll be coming through in no time. Now, for some odd reason, these guys go unspotted, and I don't know why. And I is that a thing? You know, maybe it should be fixed. But regardless, I'm going to send a missile boy off towards my enemy, and obviously being a smart player, he dodges out of the way in time. Now I can see this MiG-17 is going to go into a climb. I'm not even going to bother. I'm just going to keep my speed up, and as you can see, I'm doing 1175 kilometers per hour on the deck. This thing is ridiculously fast. The MiG-17 would have to dive and rip his wings to catch up to me. So I'm pretty much safe from a MiG-17 unless he has air-to-airs, and I'm able to basically get up nice and close to this MiG-15. The MiG-15 behind me being taken out by Oddbors because the guy was focused on me. Now, there is a Swift, and the Swift politely ignores me, and we'll get to the Swift in a little bit because he's kind of a nice guy, and I want to give him a little bit of props. Now, speaking of not giving props, this MiG-15 does what you shouldn't do in a MiG-15 and negative G. The MiG-15, especially at high speeds, does not negative G at all. One other thing to note on the F-11 Tiger is that it doesn't have combat flaps. It only has landing flaps. And these flaps rip at about, I think, somewhere between 400 and 500 kilometers per hour. If you're at 600 kilometers per hour and you want to be using flaps, you need to be tapping the flaps on and off, otherwise you will rip them. Which sucks, because it just limits the dogfighting capability of this plane. It is absolutely not a dogfighter, and for me that loves dogfights, it's really sad. However, we're actually going to get ourselves a kind of cool little dogfight here. You can see I've managed to almost boop the Swift F7 here, and he's kind of close to getting that boop, but unfortunately he pulls out of the way just in time. Now, this particular battle I'm going to call a Papega battle, because I really fuck up this battle because I can't aim the guns really well. And you can see I'm kind of fighting the plane to try and get it on target. If I was in a Swift or a MiG-17 or anything else, I probably would have had the kill, just because the plane is a little bit more responsive on the controls. Now, I'm going to spare you the ugliness, and we're going to fast forward to where I'm almost 444. In fact, 444 rounds down on, like, without a single kill. So yeah, I spent 444 rounds on this guy, and he wants to be friends. So that's fine by me. I'm going to put my smoke on. I'm going to throw the afterburner on, and then I'm going to go back to base. It's nice to just have a good sport like that. So good on you, mate. It's a really nice thing to see. I can't thank people like that enough, and it just makes the game a little bit more positive, especially when everyone's been grinding and everyone's all concentrated on the Operation Summer stuff. Speaking of which, is this plane worth your time? And to tell the truth, I don't know. It really depends on the way you like to fly. This plane can be good for you, but 90% of the player base is probably going to struggle playing this plane. It's not a plane that is easy to fly. It is certainly not a plane that is beginner friendly, and it doesn't really carry enough ordnance to make it worth taking it into Tanks RB. If you're going to play it in Tanks RB, it's kind of a waste of time. At 9.0, you've got the FJ4 at 8.7 that does a better job at that. Not only that, but, up slightly higher. At 9.3, you've got the Demon. So if you're looking for something that's quick, this ain't it. It's just not a great fighter. It's great to have in the game, don't get me wrong, but honestly, I don't really have too many positive things to say about this plane. It is very heavy, and it's kind of not quite a struggle bus, but it kind of gets the job done. Not quite, but kinda. Anyway, putting it back up in the air, a Vautour decides that it wants to come and bomb the base. Now, a good thing about this plane is it does have a decent climb rate. So, if someone is coming to bomb your base like that, you can just put yourself up and hope for the best. 99% of the time, you should be right, but realistically, if someone is coming towards you in a bomber, you should, as long as you're fully repaired, you should just J out and then respawn again. So, this Vautour B, obviously it doesn't stand a chance. It's more than subsonic. In fact, I think it only does 1,000 kilometers per hour. And I'm going to wait a little bit. Now, if you have 4 AIM-9Bs, think of it as your ammunition. And say you have 1,000 rounds, think of each missile as a potential 250 rounds. So now I've just spent 250 rounds worth of ammunition on this Vautour. Now for me, it lands a kill, but if it doesn't land a kill, you shouldn't be spamming your missiles. And I know that's something that I've been known to do, or not been known, but that's something I have a bad habit of doing. But that's something that you should, in an ideal situation, try and kick the habit. Now, the final plane here is a G91 Pre. Now, should this thing be fighting a G91 Pre? I don't think so. This plane has too much performance. It's like the Lightning. It's really hard to get kills in, but it's just got so much performance. And I think Gaijin really misses the point with these sorts of vehicles. If you're going to have a vehicle that has really good performance and crap weapons, it needs to be based off its performance. A good example was the G91s when they first came into the game, because they only had 450 cals. They were undertiered quite severely. The G91 Pre was, I believe it was 8.0, and the G91R1 was 8.0 as well. Yet the G91R could accelerate to 1,000 kilometers per hour better than the Hunter, which was one of the best accelerating planes in the game at the time. Now, Gaijin have done it again here. The F-11 Tiger is a decent plane, don't get me wrong. It's not my type, it's not my style, and if anyone flies like me, I wouldn't recommend it. However, what they've done is they've put a plane that is really fast and has really good performance, and combined with that, a difficult time killing things effectively and readily. Now, the F3H Demon is a plane that I've been playing a lot recently, and that plane is actually quite good. Maybe I'll make a video soon. But the long and short of it is, the Demon doesn't really have an amazing amount of performance, but it has plenty of guns and plenty of missiles, kind of in the same vein as this plane. Now, the F-11 is at a lower battle rating because it's thought that it'll be harder to get kills. Now, with my proposal of giving it AIM-9Es if it had them, then that would kind of be smoothed out. because the M9Es have a little bit of a better lock rate. They kind of lock on the side as well, so that would make them a little bit easier to give kills to F-11 pilots. But at the same time, giving it a little battle rating raise would balance that out, and it would also make it not frustrating to fly for pilots at the bottom. So those 8.3s or those 8.0s. So F-11 Tiger, is it actually worth it? Nah, I'm very hesitant to say yes. I'll be honest with you. I'm very on the fence. It's based on your playstyle, but if you want it, you can get it. There's no problem. Anyway, ladies and gents, thank you very much for watching. Remember the Air Models link in the description below, Discord, everything. Take care, and I'll catch you next time.